We're live, man. So give us a little bit about who you are, man, and what you do.
My name is Martin Silva, and I do Christian hip hop. But main thing is I serve God, I put Him first, and I'm a dad. Basically that's my main job, is being a father to two beautiful kids. I got a daughter and a son. Son and daughter, because he's the oldest, and I got a beautiful wife. That's my backbone. You know what I mean? And she loves God just as much as me. And that's what we. So yeah, basically, yeah, I'm a Christian hip hop artist.
How long have you been messing with music for, man?
So I've been doing music for a while, man. So I've been, it's about like, I've been doing it since I was 14 years old.
Nice.
But it always hasn't been Christian. It's before that I wasn't really living in the right way.
Yeah.
I was living in the world, and just basically, the main thing, it's just like always partying, drinking, and then just, and then rapping about things that were just nonsense, And so I realized, I don't know, I took a trip to California because my grandma just had a stroke, and I wasn't really living right. I was hanging out with some of my older cousins, and growing up with them, I always looked up to them and seeing them, because they were like my brothers, and my mom would always take them in and stuff, always get them out of jail, and but so I was there hanging out with them and stuff, because at that time my mom wasn't around, and living with just one dad, living with your dad, I was hardly in and out with him, I was living there with him, and then I was out with my friends, or I was with my sister,
Yeah.
because we would just hardly ever, we'd hardly ever see eye to eye on things, we just never got along,
Yeah.
And so I didn't have the love that I wanted growing up, so I went to go look for it somewhere else. And somewhere else is with my cousins, that were in the street life. They were living the life and stuff. So I would
At that time, did you feel accepted?
I felt accepted, but sometimes there was a little part of me that told myself that I can't show weakness, because if I show weakness, then I'm gonna get made fun of, or you know what I mean. So just because growing up too, I was there was some people that would bully me in school, and me being a small little kid, you know what I mean? Some kids were bigger than me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So growing up in that mentality, being around my cousins too, they were real rough. They were always fighting different people, and just, so I didn't want to show them that I was weak either. So I would always do things to try to fit in with them, you know what I mean?
I feel like a lot of people do that, huh?
Yeah, so. Yeah.
Even if they don't like what they're doing, they just kind of jump into it because the person next to them is like, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
And you're like, dang, that feels good.
But when it comes down to it, it's not cool.
Yeah.
Because, their life is already the way it is. You know what I mean? They were already in trouble with cops. They already got the background. They already got everything, But your life, you're just starting out, and you just, you're feeling accepted, but you want to go do these things. Like, you want to go get in trouble and stuff. And,
yeah.
Then that's when your life starts getting messed up.
So how'd you find Jesus?
So growing up, my mom was the one that put that seed inside of me. So she would always tell me to pray every night. You know what I mean? Every time we would go to bed and stuff, pray. Whenever I had a bad teacher, I had a bad experience with the teacher, she would tell me to pray. And and we would go to church, but before I was Christian, I was Catholic. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
same.
So we would go to Catholic church. So yeah, she was the one that mainly instilled the seed into me, and to have that relationship with God. But after she passed away, it kind of all went away. I had anger towards God for taking my mom, and I just had so much anger built up in me.
Yeah.
And then with
you
my
think
dad,
that comes from not feeling love too?
Yeah, that's the same thing too.
It does, huh? It's like, because
it is.
I'm kind of walking through this with you because I can remember it in my life.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up kind of similar, and I remember that, like, not feeling accepted, not feeling loved. You just get mad and
you just get angry. you have a lot of rage building up, you know.
Yeah.
And
And a lot of that's pointed towards your dad, huh?
yeah, a lot of it was towards my dad too. And you know, I still got my problems with my dad sometimes, but you know what? It's a lot more better now. I could actually talk to him without fighting, you know, because
Nice.
we used to get into some pretty good fights, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, he would beat me up, you know. That's one thing I could never. That's one person I could never beat up with my dad, you know. And yeah, I was.
Would it be worth it in the end, though? No.
No, it's not.
It wouldn't,
And,
huh?
I think
Especially now that you've been reading the Word and
Yeah.
Scripture out tells us to honor our parents.
Yeah.
Oh.
I know my dad's not perfect and he's not really in a godly walk right now. He's more in the world, you know what I mean? But I mean, I don't. Sometimes like my wife, she gets mad at me. She's like, "You need to tell him straight up why he's being this way or why he, you know what I mean?"
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, well, I just don't have the energy to do it anymore. Like I don't have the energy to fight with them. You know what I mean? Because if that's their choice, that's their choice. You know what I mean? There's nothing I can do about it. You know, so I just got to give it to God and just let Him do the work. You know.
Understand.
But, you know, it's yeah, that's like you were saying a while ago too. You know, you're your own worst enemy too. You know what I mean? And at times, you know, I probably could have done a lot more to better myself too. With my dad, always like sometimes putting me down and stuff, and not accepting the things that I did. You know, but wanting to do what he wanted me to do. And you know, I have some regrets too because you know my dad was very knowledgeable with like vehicles, and he's a mechanic and stuff, you know, from at the mines. And I should have listened to him a lot, you know, a lot more. But growing up, I didn't because, like you said, we didn't see eye to eye on things, you know.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so like back to the story where I was going to California. So my grandma had a stroke, and that's my dad's mom. And all of my dad's family and my mom's family, they all live in California. So my grandma just had a stroke and stuff, and I wasn't talking to my family from my dad's side for a long time. It was probably about like 7 years I didn't talk to him because there was an issue that happened with my sister and her ex-boyfriend, and it was with my family members, and it was just it threw everything off, you know. So, and that's, you know, and after that happened, that's when I really started wilding out, you know. After I stopped being involved with my family from California, that's when I really started wilding out. I started getting high more. I started drinking more, and became an obsession to, like, it really became an addiction, bad. Like I couldn't go a day without getting high. I couldn't go a day without drinking. Even in school, high school, but I would be drinking too.
You think you did that to take away the pain that you were having with?
It did. It made me feel good, and you know, sometimes I was like a shy person too, but I think most of the time smoking weed too made me to be antisocial too with certain people. You know what I mean? Like I didn't feel right, but I think like alcohol gave me like a liquid courage. You know?
Yeah, everyone used to say that. I remember I used to say that too, man.
So it would make me feel good, man. It would make me feel like I was above and beyond, you know. But yeah, and then I started hanging out with other people, like, you know, people from, you know, a lot of my friends, they were jumped into gangs and stuff, and so I saw a lot of people living that lifestyle and stuff, and I would never try to be the type of person that would get jumped into the gang or anything, because I wouldn't be about that life, you know what I mean? I was just like
too scary.
I just. And plus, the way I was raised, I wasn't raised to be that way, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, I would hear stories from my dad and my mom because they came from Los Angeles, and they would talk about the gangs and stuff over there and the things that they would see, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it kind of put like a scaring me too, like, I don't want to get caught up like that, you know? But my cousins and them, they were all living that life, and so me going into that, I was kind of like heading that direction, and I wasn't really caring either, you know.
Yeah.
And I couldn't You know, like I said, I had so much anger and rage, and I just wanted to constantly, like, nobody couldn't look at me, because if not, they were looking at me wrong, and I'm just like, what the heck is this person looking at me? Like, just a random person,
Yeah.
like you wouldn't even have to be like a thug looking person. You would just be like a cowboy or a normal guy going to work. Like every like any look would just tick me off, you know, and I would want to fight the person, you know. And there was a couple of times where I pulled out a weapon on some individuals, and they didn't, you know, I shouldn't have done that, you know what I mean? They were just getting drunk with my sister, but at the same time, I was just like, I don't care. And I would pull out weapons on them, and because
That's
they
crazy,
woke,
dude.
they woke me up in the middle of my sleep. You know what I mean? They woke me up, and they were all partying, and they were just trying to get with my sister, because at that time her ex-boyfriend was in jail. You know,
Yeah.
and so they were trying to get with my. They were just guys, you know, guys being drunk, trying to get with women. You know, that's how thing. So I would always have like some homeboys that were with me, you know, and I woke up and I was mad and angry, and I was telling them off. I went and pulled out a gun on them, and then my sister was all mad at me. She says, "Yeah," she said, "You know, why are you doing that? You shouldn't be doing that. You know, you know, their friend just got killed by a gun." I'm like, "Well, I was like, no wonder what happened. No wonder that happened. Look at the way they act, you know." And at that time, when I think about what I said, I'm like, "That's harsh, bro. Like,
Yeah,
like
that was
nobody doesn't deserve to get killed like that, you know."
much less death in
Yeah,
general, huh?
just death in general, yeah. And that's what kind of mind state I had, you know. And it's messed up, you know what I mean? It was messed up, you know. And there's just so much more, man, I could say, but I mean, it's just God delivered me from a lot. And like I said, I went to California. I saw my family there, and I was I was sitting with my cousin, and I was listening to music, and I was drinking a beer, and she was just staring at me, and I was just staring at her, and I just started bawling, like I just started crying, and she was just like, "What's wrong?" She says, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "You don't understand." I said, "I missed you guys so much, you know what I mean? And I haven't had this feeling in forever. Like I just, like I feel like the family, you know. And I haven't felt this feeling in forever. I haven't felt this love. Like everything just seems so normal, you know." And I was just like, and the way that I was living, I was like, it wasn't life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't life at all. And like I just started bawling up. She hugged me and everything, and so I was driving, and we were driving with them later on that night, and I remember sitting in back of the car, and I remember we were driving, and I got this stench of sulfur, you know, a bad smell of sulfur. And I asked my cousins, I'm like, "Do you guys smell that?" I go, that's some nasty stuff." I said, "You smell that?" And they're like, "No, I don't smell anything." And I was just like, "What the heck?" I was like, but I remember that it was a real bad smell of sulfur, and I just remember I was just like, man, I felt like it was weird. Like my mind wasn't the same. Like I was like switched to like I was seeing things more clearly. You know what I mean? And so I ended up going back home to Silver, and I was just looking at things differently. Like I was just like, why am I living this? I had so many questions in my mind. Like, why am I living this way? Why, you know, it's not normal to drive around with a gun under your seat. It's not normal to be drinking and getting high every day. Not normal to be trying to fight everybody all the day. You know, not normal to be pulling out guns on people. Like it's not normal to be doing this stuff. And I remember I was laying in my bed, and I started breaking down. I started crying. And before that, I didn't even know it was Jesus, but it was Jesus.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I just started breaking down, and I just started crying, and I was just like, I didn't know what the heck. I just got emotional, and I just started crying, and I don't even understand why I was crying so bad. The cigarettes didn't taste the same. My beer didn't taste the same. You know, weed didn't get me high the same. And I was wondering why, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try to do right. So I started backing away from the weed. I started backing away from the cigarettes.
Do you think that was considered a miracle?
I think so. It was cool. You know, I mean, you know, some people can't just quit cold turkey.
I'm
And
with you, man. I was one of those
yeah,
guys.
so I was like, I was able to stop. You know, I was able to stop smoking cigarettes. Like there was sometimes I slipped up, you know, but like I said, it just with smoking weed too. And,
Never was the same, huh?
yeah, and then so yeah, and then a couple weeks later, like I started getting back into that mentality again, feeling like, oh, okay, man, I mean, there's nothing going on with my life. I'm just going to work with my grandpa, and maybe I just need to just go back to what I was doing, and so I ended up meeting my wife a couple more weeks later. We start talking and stuff, and she she was in her life too, and she came out of something that she wasn't living the best life either. So I guess we were both basically lost in her life, And my wife, she has her story, and she will have to share it one of these days too. And
Cool, man.
she has an awesome testimony. But yeah, we ended up got together and stuff, and we ended up going. She asked me, she's like, "Do you want to go to church?" Because her family's they're all church people. You know what I mean? They're all pastors, and they have their own churches. And she's like, "Do you want to go to church with me?" And at the time, it was her and her uncle and Demi. And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" You know what I mean? And that's the thing with me is, whenever people would always invite me to church, I would always go. It's not like I would be like, "Oh, I don't want to go to church." You know what I mean?
You would go check it out,
yeah,
see what it was all about.
I'll go. So I ended up going with her, and I remember sitting there and listening to her. I think it was her auntie at the time preaching, and I remember hearing the words that she was saying, and I was just like, I was looking at my wife, and I'm like, "Did you tell her anything about my life or what?" And but no, it's just that's God working through people and you getting that conviction. You know what I mean? And it was a lot of things that were pointing towards me, and I was just like, no, it's just God. God's real. You know what I mean? And
Do you think church is important?
You know what? I think it is important. I think it is. That's where we learn. I think that's like a school for us to go learn about God and stuff. You know what I mean? Because whenever we learn about it, we take it out here on the streets. Basically.
That's true, man.
And the people that aren't in church and they don't know God, they hear the words coming out of you because they wouldn't ever stand in a church. You know what I mean? So you go and take it out to the streets and you preach the gospel. You know what I mean? And that'll make people turn into that and go into the church, and they could learn for themselves, and then they could be used to go reach souls also too.
Do you think sharing your testimony is part of that?
I think so. Yeah.
Vitally important.
Yeah, I think so. But to me, I really don't like to share my testimony a lot, and yeah, I think I need to get out of that habit, and I need to do it. But at times, I don't like to make it about myself. I like to make it.
What if a testimony could be just something about God did for you throughout the week? It don't have to be like your whole turn and burn experience, but so more like, hey, this week God is teaching me this, or
or He blessed me with He blessed me to where I had a conversation with this individual, and I filled it, and he got filled up with the Holy Spirit. It could be like little things.
Or what if
like
a testimony is just, hey man, can I pray for you today?
Yeah.
Someone at your work's having a bad day, and you just take the time to pray with them, and just let them know that they're not alone, man.
Yeah. See those are so like little things like that. Yeah. But when it's like talking about, like, to me, when it's talking about like my whole life story and stuff, because God, I could, like I said, that's like not even half of the stuff I told you. Like, it's just, there's so much more that God has done
you got to
for
really
us.
get to know the person and hang out with them, go have coffee or something.
But there's just so much, like say here, we're all giving like testimony. People are giving testimonies and all that,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, sometimes I don't feel like it's, because sometimes people might think like, oh, he's just making it about himself.
Yeah.
He just wants to be seen. He just, you know what I mean? Like this guy, he was a big bad gangster back in his days. Oh, he just wants to show how bad he was. Or look at this guy, he had so many different women, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he had so many, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people see that and they're like, oh, they're just making it to still show how cool they were, or how big and bad they were. But sometimes it's not like that, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's just, some people are giving their testimony to, this is what God got me out of. But with me, I get like iffy like that sometimes too, because there's sometimes there are people that are up there and they are giving their testimony, but they are doing it to be seen.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they are doing it to be seen.
Thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, for sure, man.
We'll have to talk again some other time. We'll get in the studio instead of out here on the streets, man.
Yeah, for sure.
One more question. This is a pro-life gathering to support our local pregnancy center.
Mm-hmm.
What are you pro-life or pro-choice?
I'm for life, man. I'm really for life, because I mean, there's a verse that I saw. It was on Genesis, and so I have a little book, and it tells me like scriptures.
Yeah.
And one gave me abortion, and it was in Genesis, and it says we were made in God's image.
Yep.
So if we were made in God's image, and these people that are against the choices and stuff, and they just want to, that's cool, you know what I mean? But the thing is if you're killing a baby and you're killing God's image, basically, you're killing God. So,
true.
So that's
Plus, at the very beginning, God said, be fruitful and multiply.
Yes.
Part of multiplying is having kids.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is that with the choices that people make, it was their choice to be in bed with a certain individual and getting pregnant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you don't want to deal with all that, then don't do that. Don't. But at the same time, temptation is hard. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's the thing, is with men and women, they go through temptation, and sometimes they might think it's the right man, and they might think it's the right woman, and they go to bed with them, and they end up with a little baby, while one of the other could be skipping out and like, I don't want to have a kid. They're not ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's just one thing is hard, but at the same time, it's just, you have that now, so you have to do something about it. But I don't think killing it and taking it out of this world, because it's already in this world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you never know what that little blessing could be, you know what I mean? You never know how many souls it could reach. You never know what it could be a life changer, basically, you know what I mean? It could be a leader of this country. It could be anything. And you killing it, you're never giving it a chance. So.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate your time.
For sure, man. For sure.